What's going on, everyone? Alex De Silva.
And Lucy Kai from Happy as Larry Group. Good evening. And tonight we're going to talk about fear.
Yes, we are.
It's a big thing. And my main fear around making this video is that I am wearing zero makeup. I came in and took my makeup off and had a shower and forgot that we were going to do a video. So I've still had to do it without any makeup on, and I feel naked in the face. So thanks for that.
Yeah, there you go. It was in the diary. But look, fear on the on a not so pleasant side. It's an emotion caused by the threat of danger, harm or pain. It's a real buggery one, because it's we talk about this quite a lot, you know, especially with a lot of clients that we're working with, people that we've come across, you know, and I say this all the time: fear is the biggest killer of a human being.
Yes, but also I think an important thing to mention is with fear, it is actually a primal emotion, and that there's a reason why we feel fear. And I've learnt this from my studies at university, and there is this primal instinct to which you may have heard of before, is fight or flight. And what happens with that primal instinct is that we get, when nowadays when we feel fear and we get anxious and we might have a panic attack, the physiological effects of having a panic attack are that similar to, for example, you were a caveman running away from a saber-toothed tiger. It's your body telling you that you need to protect yourself and you've got to get the hell out of there. And I know that when I feel fear in a sense that I feel like I feel in danger, I have the fight response in that I will lash out. And that, you know, I know that has actually happened to me before, a long time ago. And my initial response was to fight. And I think everyone has, they don't know what it is until in that split second that it happens. But yeah, that's something interesting that most people might not actually know.
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, fear is caused by a lot of different types of behaviour, isn't it? But the most important thing, or one of the things that we want to talk about, is where can fear arise? Now that is an interesting one, because a lot of people will think about, you know, being in a crowded place or going on a date. Now it also goes as far as people fearing death, which for me, I don't understand. Why would you keep worrying about fearing death if you're alive? Enjoy your life, people. That's the whole point, you know. But listen, I completely get it. I didn't want to be here, you know. So, you know, I, to a certain extent, you know, my fear was being alive. And that's quite sad to think about today. But, you know, listen, the fear of the unknown, I always kind of find that a little bit funny, because why would you fear the unknown if you don't know what's going to happen? But, listen, you know, it can go even as deep as, you know, the fear of being in danger. And sometimes we can be in danger, and that is a real fear, you know, that is a real situation. But as Lucy mentioned, you know, we do have these primal instincts that give us two options. We either fight or we either flight. And if we're in a position where we need to fly, don't fear the flight. Flight. Get the fuck out of there. And, you know, it's all about your safety. It's all about making sure that you're okay, you know, whatever situation it may be when it comes down to being in danger. If we're being confronted, I hate confrontation. I'm not a fan of confrontation. I literally, I switched to my phone and I tried to ignore the whole thing.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen that happen before.
yeah. So listen, it's not good, you know. But I've learned to face that fear, and I'm learning every single day, because I know it's something that for the other person it's not pleasant, and I also understand that there is no reason for me to fear, because confrontation is one of these things where you can just talk about things, you know, and whether it's happening at work, whether it's happening with a partner, or whether you're sharing it with a friend or family, wherever it might be, it doesn't have to be a confrontation. You know, it can just be a conversation. We make it into such a big thing where we don't really need to, do we? Which kind of brings on to sort of engaging in conversation and little things like being in crowds. And I mentioned about dating, work, traveling, people fear of flying. I used to have a huge fear of flying, and then actually understood the reality is safest place, you know, safest way to travel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You know, flying. And, you know, so far, so good. You know, we're still here. And one of the ones that we will both share on this, and we'll both talk about it, and it's about the acceptance around social media. I have a daughter who's 12 and my son's 19, and we talk to them a hell of a lot about this stuff because, you know, for us, he's constantly learning, he's constantly growing, so we want to be able to speak at all age levels. So, you know, talking to kids, you know, and understanding what's important to them at the moment, and the acceptance on social media is huge. How many likes you get on Instagram, how many people like your pictures on Facebook, you know, your videos, whatever it might be. You know, Snapchat is a huge thing as well amongst, you know, younger people. And it's a really, really interesting thing for us because we like to sort of understand, you know, how people behave and how people think and what trigger these fears, you know, and what triggers certain emotions, which we'll get to. But the saddest thing is why is it that you're putting your life into somebody else's hands?
I think an important thing to say actually at that point though is that the validation on social media isn't only, you know, people that are 12 or to 15, 19 years old. I know a lot of people that are on my Facebook or on my Instagram or, you know, my Twitter, which I don't actually use that often, but that spend their lives on Facebook projecting this image that they have this life that's so fantastic, and the photos that are always posted on there are that, you know, having fun and out having drinks and all this, life's great and all this, and, you know, people are like, love is even better than like, you know, if you get more loves then that validates you even more. And, you know, and it's really sad that we are getting our validation through social media, and I know that I've actually done that myself in the past, and one of my things is that I've stopped doing that now. I only post things when I think that actually they're really necessary, and that there, you know, there are people on my Facebook that I don't see all the time, and that it would be nice for them to see it. And it's not always to get as many likes, but I'll be honest, you know, if I get the more likes I get, then yeah, it does give me that a little bit of a boost, like it makes me feel good. But, you know, I don't take it to the extreme that some people do, and that's sad to live in that place where you're living your life through getting likes on an app or a web page, which isn't real life. You know, it's not like someone actually coming up to you and saying to you, do you know what, you did so well today, or you did you know, well done on that exam pass, or well done for getting through, you know, a tough job interview or whatever it was, or even just, you know, it's really nice that you're around, it's really nice to see you, you know, that clicking a like button on Facebook doesn't give you, that's not real.
Do you know what the difference is? It's the difference between doing that, I love you, or an electronic validation. That's the difference. Go and give someone a hug, give them a kiss. That's the difference. That is a huge difference.
See how good that makes me feel?
Yeah.
That wasn't planned.
This is it. No, it wasn't. Sorry. But I just wanted, it just pops into my head, and I just thought, God, Lucy's making a real good point. You know, and the saddest thing is, you know, we're in this world now where everything is about, you know, apps and electronics, and I get it. And listen, it's fantastic. We're doing it right now. But to what extent, you know, and also to what detriment?
And I think, you know, that can lead us on to about, you know, what emotions get triggered when we do feel fear. And, you know, there's so many ones that can make you feel completely out of control, and, you know, anxiety and stress and, you know, actual fright and real sadness and grief. And, you know, fear is just it's horrific. It can come in so many different forms. You know, I've heard someone say once 1,000 forms of fear, because there are 1,000 plus more, because fear is the underlying emotion of everything that puts us in a position where we don't feel comfortable in ourselves, or we don't want to be around certain people, or we don't want to have to face up to a certain situation, because that situation is going to cause us fear, which will cause us then sadness, or it will cause us anxiety, or it will cause us stress. And then what happens is it affects us in our body. Physically, it affects us in that we become unwell. Physically, we become unwell. It can cause sickness, people's hair fall out, you know, people have problem with their breathing, which can then later down the line, it can cause real issues. And you know, I've heard of people that have lived in fear for a lot of their lives, and they have issues with their stomach, you know, and with their that you know, that kind of stuff. I won't go into the details, but it can manifest in actual illness, and from an emotion, what you would see as an emotion, to you know, potentially causing quite fatal diseases and illnesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just from feeling fear that's been allowed to grow and manifest over the years.
Has huge damage to your body as well. You know, as Lucy said, I used to get really bad cramps, weirdly enough, you know, at times, and I never really understood why, or sometimes I get really bad pains on my neck and my shoulder. You know, if I'm feeling uncomfortable, if I've got a little bit of anxiety, or something doesn't feel quite right, you know, I start to get, you know, tension around different parts of my body. And
well, it's called somatic pain. That actually, when I was in treatment, I was going through a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness, a lot of held on to stuff over the years and years and years. And what happened is that my lower back seized up, and I actually, like, I was in so much pain. I was begging for pain relief because it was just horrific. And I'd not done anything to my back. I'd not pulled it, I'd not strained it, but that was because my body had held on to those emotions for so many years. And what people don't realise is that they suffer with achy shoulders, or like you were just saying about that. And it is because a lot of it is to do with our emotions, especially fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned before in different videos, and we talk about this as well. Listen, the body, the reason these emotions keep coming back up, you know, is because the body doesn't want to hold on to them. So it manifests in different ways. You know, what Lucy was saying about the pain that she was having. Sometimes I get these problems with, you know, with my neck, and, you know, with tension. When we're feeling these types of emotion and we're plugging them down and pushing them down and pushing them down, because we're either not facing the fear, or we're so deep into it, whether it's a depression or anxiety or whatever it might be, the body does not want to hold on to it. It's poison for the body. So what it does, it starts to manifest itself in various different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is no escaping that until you face it, which is what we'll talk about a bit later on. But yeah, so, you know, I think one of the questions that we want to ask you guys is, when you feel fear, how does it make you feel? You know, how does it affect your body? How does it affect your relationships? How does it affect how you are in yourself? Do you actually take your fear and put your fears onto other people, which I think is a big one that people do without even realising? You know, are you a parent that has passed their fear onto their child unknowingly, and with, you know, not doing it on purpose, but because you've had to go through a lot of stuff in your growing up, have you then passed your fear on to your kids? Fear into, oh no, don't go off travelling, or don't do this, don't do that, because I need you here to be here with me. You know, and that, you know, because of your fear, you're preventing someone from living their life how they should be living their life. And then what happens is that person is younger, so they don't have as much experience. So they then think, oh, this person must know what they're talking about. You know, I should be fearful of this. I should, when really actually, have you even been travelling? Did you even ever do any of that stuff? And that's, you know, it's not a real life scenario, but it's an example really of something.
Gosh, yeah. And listen, examples that no doubt happened, you know, and they probably happen, you know, throughout life. How many people have experienced, you know, being in situations where you know, somebody else's fear has stopped you from reaching your goals. You know, this is something to mention because it's a real important one. And then what happens after that is because we didn't reach those goals, we end up resenting that person. And then what do we do then? We then go off and we just explode, you know, and then other bad behaviors then start happening from that, you know, and then we become angry, we become resentful, and then off the back of that, then, you know,
well, and
loads of other things
yeah,
happen.
I mean, that's where addiction comes into it as well, which is a whole other video that we can both do. But, but yeah, you know, but that's real life. Addiction
of course it
is rife in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
I've certainly used it to cope with life. I
Same.
know that you have as well.
Yeah.
And that's what that does, and that is just the tip of the iceberg as to why addiction might happen.
Yeah.
But you know, addiction doesn't always happen. It can manifest in other ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, listen, one of the, I guess, more positive ways or positive things we want to talk about is, I guess, how to overcome it. And it's not a solution now that we're going to give you and all of a sudden you're going to stop watching this video and go, my life is fixed. It's not like that. You know, we have spent years, you know, working on ourselves consistently, you know, and this is something that we're never going to stop because, you know, you have to carry on. You know, every experience there's going to be some form of fear. You know, we've had it doing these videos, you know, and I had it today. You know, I've got a new client that I'm working with at the moment, you know, so I had some fear come up, you know, in different ways. Now, what we want to teach you is to move from one stage to another. The first stage is false evidence appearing real. What does that mean, Luce?
Fear. Well, it's fear broken down, isn't it? FEAR. But it says in a nutshell. It basically says what fear is, because fear is the fear of evidence that isn't actually proved, and that's it really. False evidence appearing real. You know, the fear of the future. Well, how are you going to know, because you haven't even lived it yet. The fear of a situation, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. The fear of a person, the fear of a job, the fear of going on a date, you know, like we were saying about earlier. You don't know what's going to happen. So so that's why it is false evidence appearing real.
So, human beings are experts at two things. One, living in the past, and two, projecting the future. Now, here is a new thing. Learn to live in the present day, right here, right now. You know, it's so important, because what happens to false evidence appearing real is that it just allows you to be right here and right now. And when something then triggers, you have the mechanism and the tools to be able to turn around and say, actually, this is not happening right now. So let me just bring myself back to the present moment.
Yeah, well, I think you start to realise that false evidence appearing real is something that it's not real. It's something that you've dreamt up. But also, the more you can actually realise that in your life, you know, the more you realise that fear isn't real anyway. I don't know if I'm repeating myself there, but just to kind of make it, you know, to drum it home, because this was something that was taught to me quite a lot throughout my process of this journey that I've been on in my growth and healing and recovery, is that fear isn't even real. That's it. No. It's as simple as that. And once you start to understand that, that's when the change can come about.
It's a huge step. It's a massive step to understand that, you know, and the worst of it, you know, we speak to people all the time, you know, and we help a lot of people as well. And when we're talking about it, fear comes up consistently. And the reason it keeps coming up is because people don't understand that. You know, we get so caught up in not what's going on in here, what's going on in here. And that's what triggers fear. And a lot of the times is, again, we're either living in things that happened in the past, or we keep trying to project the future. And but listen, look, you know, something really positive to move on to. Another little acronym of fear, which is a more positive one, is face everything and rise. That means put yourself in present moment, right here, right now, you know, and start to live, you know, the way you want to be, you know. And a lot of people just want to be fearless. And the way to be able to do that is to face that fear, you know. And listen, I'm not turning around and saying to you, if you're scared of spiders, all of a sudden go find a tarantula and put your hand in there. What I'm saying is come to understand.
Well, there is exposure therapy.
Actually, which is actually really good, by the way. Yeah, and which is actually really, really good. And but look, I guess what I'm trying to say is, by being able to face these things that 90% of the time aren't real, you start to realize that you're taking one step forward, you know, and one more towards living a much better life, you know.
But I think what happens then as well is, once you start facing the fears like small at a time, you know, one thing that we tell our clients is, like, don't try and go 100 miles an hour into things and jump out of a plane because you're scared of flying. You know, you might get to that, but I think
did that once.
what happens is that small things start to change. You start to face small fears, like for example, you don't like, I don't know, it can be even calling someone, you know, it can be the fear of making a phone call, because that is a real thing for some people. They don't like speaking on the phone, you know, just it's changing small things. And when these small things start to add up, that's when the larger things start to happen and the self-esteem gets built. And then you realise even more that fear isn't real. I don't know who Phil is. Fear isn't actually real. That it is just a myth, and that if you do face up to stuff, actually none of that even exists. So that's where the healing comes into play. But also, and that's not to say that you might not be jumping out of a plane one day, because that's where it can lead to.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I've been on a plane with someone who was actually had huge fear of flying, and they actually jumped. I was on a plane with them, and when I met them at the bottom, it was a really interesting experience. And I kind of shared that, you know, that with them. I had the fear of flying, but I just wanted to jump because I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. But listen, one of the things is, be gentle with yourself, you know, and be safe when you are facing certain fears. Again, you know, because there are certain fears which are small, some of them are really, really big. So, you know.
But I think also, sorry to just come in there as well, but I think with you talking about being gentle and be safe with yourself, and this whole thing about facing up to the fears and that, you know, there is a way of doing it in that, you know, it's safe for you. So, you know, we do say, do it with a therapist or do it with a coach, you know, because those people will know how to contain you whilst you are, you know, prepping yourself to face up to whatever fears it is that you do have. Because if you do suffer with anxiety, if you do have panic attacks and stuff like that, you know, it has to be a very gentle process. It has to be guided by someone who knows what they're doing and who knows what they're talking about. Or we try and say anyway. But yeah, I mean, being real about it, you know, there are some people that suffer with anxiety and stress in a real, you know, a really debilitating kind of way, and that you will need support with that, and that there are people that can help. For sure.
Absolutely. And you know, it's all about learning. You know, it's all about learning, and it's about accepting, you know, everything that's happening, you know, as you start to go through this healing process. And that's what this is. And we may have mentioned this earlier on, or we do mention it in most videos about, you know, love and fear being the sort of the mother of them all. And I think all of us want to live, you know, on the other side, you know, of love, you know, the other neighborhood. And it's a lot nicer over there, and believe me, we enjoy it. So, you know, we want you guys to come over there because it's so nice. But take your time, you know, get involved, but start facing things, you know, and
do it through the right channels as well.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Actually asking for help, you know, that's a fear for most people. Asking for help, that's a huge fear.
Absolutely.
It's very hard, and it took me a long time to ask for help. So
same.
That's facing that fear and asking for help.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, on that note, you know, don't feel fearful about leaving a comment or sharing this video or liking it. So please do all three. And also follow us on our social medias.
Twitter, Instagram,
Facebook,
Snapchat.
Yeah. And you can follow us on our website, which is www.happyasllarrygroup.com, or you can email us
info@happyasllarrygroup.com.
Ta-da!
And that's us.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything. So we, as always, we'd love to hear from you guys. You know, people started to comment, which is great. So, you know, keep commenting because we want to do other videos. And if there is anything, we want to hear from people about relationships.
Yeah.
This is one which I'm really keen to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, it is. No, it is. There's so much involved with it. You know, I think there are, because there are so many different relationships. It's not just a partnership like this. It's relationships with your parents. It's, you know, relationships on so many different levels. So yeah, it's a huge topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, definitely. We really want to hear from people about that.
Definitely. And as you can see with the videos that we're doing, there is a little bit of a trend, and there is also, you know, we're getting somewhere with these videos, and I'm sure as you keep watching them and you start following them, which also means follow us and subscribe, you know, so you can watch some more of the videos. Remember, we're posting these on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
We are.
Awesome. So have an amazing evening and an amazing day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.